Welcome to Stamps Old World UK, the channel where we explore rare and fascinating stamps from across the globe, diving into their rich history, cultural significance, and modern-day market value. In today's episode, we are going to take a closer look at a very special piece of philatelic history from the United States, the 1904 1-cent Robert R. Livingston stamp. This classic green-colored stamp, with its intricate design and deep historical meaning, is more than just a piece of postage. It tells the story of one of America's most important statesmen, the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, and the growth of a nation. The stamp features a portrait of Robert R. Livingston, an American lawyer, diplomat, and politician who played a key role in negotiating the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. The Louisiana Purchase was one of the largest land deals in history, doubling the size of the United States at the time. Livingston, along with James Monroe, helped secure this deal with France, ensuring that America would have access to the Mississippi River and vast territories stretching westward. This acquisition opened the doors to westward expansion, forever shaping the history and destiny of the United States. Having Livingston's portrait on a stamp is a tribute to his diplomatic achievements and his influence in early American politics. The 1-cent Livingston stamp was issued in 1904 as part of the Louisiana Purchase Exposition issue, also known as the St. Louis World's Fair commemorative stamps. These stamps were released to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Louisiana Purchase and were sold to collectors and fair attendees as souvenirs of the Great Exposition. There were 6 denominations in this series, each portraying key figures connected with the Louisiana Purchase. The Livingston 1-cent stamp was printed in green ink and became one of the most collected stamps of its time. Its design showcases a dignified portrait of Livingston at the center, framed by ornate engravings that capture the style and elegance of early 20th century stamp production. From a collector's perspective, this stamp is fascinating not only because of its historical importance, but also because of its variations and market value in today's philatelic world. When it comes to value, condition is everything. A stamp that has been postally used, like the one shown with cancellation marks, will generally fetch a lower price compared to a mint condition stamp that has never been hinged or affixed to an envelope. A used 1-cent Livingston stamp can typically sell in the range of $1 to $5, depending on the clarity of the cancellation and the quality of the paper. However, a mint condition version of this stamp can be worth significantly more. Collectors often pay between $20 and $50 for a mint example, and exceptionally well-centered, never-hinged stamps with strong original gum can sometimes reach prices of over $100 at auction. In rare cases, if the stamp is graded extremely fine or superb by professional grading services, the value can climb even higher. The beauty of collecting classic commemoratives like the 1904 Louisiana Purchase series is that they connect us directly to pivotal moments in history. For a collector in the United States, owning the Livingston stamp is like holding a piece of the Louisiana Purchase itself, a reminder of how the nation expanded and developed. For collectors in the UK and around the world, this stamp represents the golden age of stamp design, when engravers created miniature works of art to honor great events and individuals. The delicate engraving work and strong portrait of Livingston make this 1-cent stamp a timeless treasure. In today's stamp market, interest in classic American commemoratives continues to remain strong. While modern stamps are often produced in huge quantities with little scarcity, early 20th century commemoratives like the 1904 Livingston stamp were printed in limited numbers and often handled with less care, which makes well-preserved examples much more desirable. The rise of online auction platforms and international trading has also made it easier for collectors to buy and sell these stamps across borders. At the same time, professional grading and certification services have added more transparency to the market, giving buyers confidence when they invest in high-quality examples. This means that while the 1-cent Livingston stamp is still affordable to most collectors, its higher-grade versions can serve as both a hobby item and a small investment. When evaluating this stamp in today's dollar value, Collectors should always remember that condition, centering, gum quality, and whether the stamp is hinged or never hinged are the key factors in determining worth. A common used example may only bring a couple of dollars, but a pristine mint example could bring 50 or more. Exceptional specimens with superb centering and original gum can easily exceed $100, and professional certification can add even more value. This makes the stamp a wonderful entry point for beginners in philately, as it is both historically meaningful and financially accessible. For those of you who are passionate about stamps, the story of the 1-cent Robert R. Livingston is a reminder of why we collect. Each stamp is more than just a piece of paper. It is a gateway into history, politics, and art. When we look at Livingston's portrait on this small green stamp, we are reminded of the Louisiana Purchase, one of the greatest land deals in world history. We are reminded of diplomacy, negotiation, and vision for the future. And we are reminded that stamps, though small in size, carry stories that are larger than life.
Next up, the green-colored stamp with its bold engraving of the 7th President of the United States has captured the attention of collectors for decades. It is a simple yet powerful piece of postal history that holds an important place in both American history and philately. Andrew Jackson, the man featured on this stamp, was the 7th President of the United States, serving from 1829 to 1837. Known as a populist and a strong advocate for the so-called common man, Jackson was a military hero from the War of 1812 and played a transformative role in American politics. He was one of the most controversial presidents of his time, credited with strengthening the power of the presidency, but also criticized for policies such as the Indian Removal Act. By placing Jackson on postage stamps, the United States honored his role in shaping the nation's identity, even though his legacy remains debated today. For collectors, however, his image has become one of the most recognizable in U.S. stamp history. The 1-cent Andrew Jackson stamp was first issued in 1963 as part of the Prominent American series, which ran for nearly 2 decades. This series replaced the earlier Liberty issue and featured portraits of well-known figures from American history, including scientists, writers, and presidents. The Jackson stamp, printed in a deep green shade, was primarily used for everyday postage, especially for second-class and bulk mailing rates. Because it was printed in such large quantities, it was extremely common in circulation. Millions of Americans would have seen this stamp on letters, magazines, and newspapers throughout the 1960s and 1970s, making it a familiar sight to generations of mail users. From a design perspective, the 1-cent Jackson stamp is straightforward but striking. It shows a detailed side profile of Andrew Jackson, facing left, engraved with sharp lines that emphasize his strong features. His name, Andrew Jackson, is written vertically along the right side, while the denomination and the words U.S. postage are boldly displayed at the bottom. This simple design reflects the minimalist approach of the Prominent American series, where the emphasis was on clean, dignified portraits that conveyed respect and recognition for each figure. Collectors admire these stamps for their clarity, balance, and consistency within the series. Now let us discuss what really excites collectors, the market value of this stamp in today's world. Because the 1-cent Andrew Jackson stamp was printed in such massive numbers, a used example carries little monetary value. In fact, a standard used Jackson stamp often sells for just a few cents, sometimes even less than its original face value. But that does not mean the stamp is worthless. For beginners, it is a fantastic starting point in a U.S. collection, as it connects them with an important series and offers historical significance without requiring a large investment. The real value comes when we talk about mint condition examples, particularly those that are never hinged and well-centered. A typical mint stamp from the Prominent American series can sell for around $1 to $2, while sheets of 100 can sometimes be sold for $20 or more. Collectors also look for varieties, misprints, or errors, such as misaligned perforations, color shifts, or double impressions. These rare production mistakes can dramatically increase the value of a Jackson stamp. While most of these errors are uncommon, if you happen to own one, you could be holding a piece worth $10 to $50 or even more, depending on rarity and demand. Another fascinating area for collectors is first-day covers. The Andrew Jackson stamp was first issued on March 22, 1963, in Washington, D.C., and first-day covers bearing this stamp are collectible items in their own right. Depending on condition and cachet design, these covers often sell in the $5 to $15 range, sometimes higher if they feature unusual or elaborate artwork. For those who specialize in postal history, envelopes bearing bulk mail or special postal rates with the 1-cent Jackson stamp are also highly collectible. These items provide a snapshot of the stamp's actual use in society, giving us more than just a single piece of paper, but a window into the everyday life of the 1960s. In terms of long-term value, the 1-cent Jackson stamp is not considered rare or highly valuable, but it plays an essential role in building a complete U.S. stamp collection. Every major collector of 20th-century U.S. stamps will have this issue, and its affordability makes it accessible to collectors of all ages and backgrounds. For many people, this stamp may have even been their introduction to philately, picked up from an envelope in the family home or inherited from a parent's or grandparent's old collection. When thinking about market value in dollar terms today, collectors can expect used examples to sell for less than $1, with most worth only pennies. Mint examples usually range from $1 to $2, while full sheets may bring $20 or more. Error varieties, or exceptionally well-centered specimens with professional grading, can reach higher prices, sometimes exceeding $50. First-day covers and postal history pieces featuring this stamp add another layer of collectability, ranging from $5 to $20 depending on uniqueness. So, while the 1-cent Andrew Jackson stamp may not be a hidden fortune, it is a stamp rich in history and full of meaning for collectors. It represents a time when mail was still the lifeline of communication and when great American leaders were honored through the art of engraving. This little green stamp connects us not just to Andrew Jackson himself, but also to an era of stamp collecting that continues to inspire philatelists today.
Next up, the most iconic stamps in United States history, the 1-cent Benjamin Franklin issue. This stamp is an absolute legend in the world of philately. For collectors, it represents not only one of America's earliest and most important postage stamps, but also a deep connection to Benjamin Franklin himself, a founding father, inventor, statesman, and the very first Postmaster General of the United States. Benjamin Franklin is a natural figure to appear on American stamps because of his extraordinary role in shaping the country and its postal system. As the first Postmaster General, appointed in 1775 by the Continental Congress, Franklin revolutionized mail delivery in the colonies. He established efficient routes, improved reliability, and laid the foundation for what would become the U.S. Postal Service. Beyond his postal achievements, Franklin was one of the great minds of the 18th century, contributing as a scientist, diplomat, and writer. His face on the 1-cent stamp honors both his legacy and his foundational role in American communication. The 1-cent Franklin stamp exists in many different designs and series, which makes it a fascinating and sometimes complex subject for collectors. The version most people recognize is the black or dark green engraved stamp featuring Franklin's profile framed by laurel leaves or decorative scrollwork. These designs were issued between the late 1800s and the early 1900s as part of definitive series used for everyday postage. Because the 1-cent denomination was commonly used for postcards, circulars, and additional postage rates, these stamps were printed in vast numbers and became one of the most widely seen Franklin portraits in postal history. For many Americans, Benjamin Franklin's image was as familiar as the coins in their pockets. From a design standpoint, the Franklin 1-cent stamp stands out for its engraving detail. The finely etched portrait shows Franklin in profile, looking left, with strong lines that emphasize his thoughtful expression. The classical design gives the stamp a timeless dignity, appropriate for honoring such an essential figure in American history. Surrounding Franklin's portrait is a decorative oval or frame, and across the bottom in bold lettering appears the denomination, 1 cent. These design elements varied slightly over the years, but all versions carried a strong sense of tradition and authority, which collectors appreciate. Now let's explore the market value of the Benjamin Franklin 1 cent stamp in today's collecting world. Because these stamps were issued in such large numbers, their value depends almost entirely on condition, rarity of the exact issue, and special printing varieties. A common used 1 cent Franklin from the early 1900s may only be worth between 50 cents and $2, making it an affordable piece of history for almost anyone. However, things become far more interesting when we talk about mint condition examples. A mint 1 cent Franklin, especially with full original gum and never hinged, can easily sell for $10 to $20, with better centered specimens reaching $50 or more. But the true excitement lies in the rarer variations. Throughout the decades, the Franklin 1 cent stamp was printed with different perforations, watermarks, and shades of ink. Some of these varieties are scarce and highly sought after. For example, a perfectly centered early 20th century Franklin with the correct watermark and sharp printing can fetch hundreds of dollars at auction. Even more valuable are error stamps, such as inverted designs, color misprints, or rare coil versions. These rarities can sell for thousands of dollars, making the Franklin series one of the most thrilling areas for advanced collectors. Another important factor in market value is grading. A professionally graded stamp that is centered precisely with wide margins and no flaws can command a premium price. Collectors today are more aware than ever of the importance of condition. While a common 1 cent Franklin may be worth just a few dollars, the same stamp graded Superb 98 or Gem 100 by a professional service could sell for $100 or more. This shows how crucial condition and presentation are in the philatelic market. It is also worth mentioning the historical role of the 1 cent Franklin in philately. In 1847, the United States issued its very first postage stamps, a 5 cent featuring George Washington and a 10 cent featuring Benjamin Franklin. Ever since then, Franklin has remained a recurring figure on U.S. stamps. The 1 cent Franklin issues of the late 19th and early 20th century continue that tradition, serving as a reminder of the very origins of American postal history. For collectors, owning a Franklin stamp is almost a rite of passage, a way to connect with the roots of U.S. philately. So how does this translate to today's market in dollar terms? A typical used 1 cent Franklin is worth about $1 to $2, while mint condition examples usually range between $10 and $50. Rarer varieties, such as coil stamps, unusual perforations, or scarce watermarked issues, can reach values in the hundreds. And error stamps, when they surface, can bring in thousands of dollars depending on rarity and demand. Collectors should always examine their Franklin stamps carefully, paying attention to details such as perforations, shade, paper type, and centering. These little details can mean the difference between a common stamp worth $1 and a rare treasure worth a small fortune. At Stamps Old World UK, we believe the Benjamin Franklin 1 cent stamp is not just a collectible, but a piece of living history. It tells the story of America's founding, the growth of its postal system, and the art of stamp design during the golden age of engraving. For beginner collectors, it is an affordable and accessible way to start exploring classic U.S. issues. For advanced collectors, it offers endless depth in varieties, errors, and high-grade examples. And for all collectors, it represents the enduring legacy of Benjamin Franklin, one of history's most remarkable men. Thank you for joining me today on Stamps Old World UK. If you enjoyed this in-depth look at the Benjamin Franklin 1 cent stamp, be sure to subscribe for more philatelic stories from around the world. Every stamp has a history. Every stamp has a story.
and every stamp has a place in the fascinating market of today. Until next time, keep collecting, keep exploring, and keep cherishing the old world of stamps.